How's that diet treating you?
Perfect. I feel great. I'm tired, but I'm doing well.
More energy? Feeling like
Yeah,
you're recovering better?
I think adding the fats in definitely helps me sleep better. It helps me between meals, and I have more energy in the gym.
How many weeks out are you now, Maddie?
8 weeks and 4 days.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
PCA USA finals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I seen that. And then you changed they're not doing Europe, right? They canceled it this year or what?
Yeah, well, what happened was all these new lockdowns. It's like we have like PCA in a lot of countries. So Israel, South Africa, South Korea, Australia, and most of the European countries have basically told Ryan that they can't send a team. They won't allow athletes outside of the country. So we sat and discussed it in length, and basically, what's the point in having an international show with 2 countries in it? You know, it's now no longer an international show. So we decided to go with it. Or Ryan decided to put it next May.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to try and do the universe next May, and we're hoping that a lot of this will die down and there'll be more travel allowed, and we can actually get all these teams coming from all these different countries to compete. So it's more an international show. It's disappointing. A lot of athletes were really aiming for that, for our USA finals, and then going straight for the universe afterwards. But it's kind of out of our control, you know. And if we can't do it well, I don't see the point in doing it. I'm not just going to do it to say we do it. You know, if it can't be a great show and it can't be a competitive show, then I just don't see the point. So
yeah. Dr. Jason, he sponsors a couple shows. You're sponsoring Daytona now this year. Have you always sponsored Daytona?
No, this is the first year I did it. Mike's asked me last year, and I just was busy with time. But this year, as he keeps getting bigger, and plus it's right here in hometown, so definitely. Like I said, I'm trying to get, you know, like from the first time you and I met at Ty, the first year I sponsored. Really, my passion with it, my goal with a lot of stuff is becoming a physician is giving back to where I started. You know, so that, like we've talked about, you're a patient of mine, you know what I'm saying, is being able to have that voice that you guys can talk to, bounce ideas off of, work with coaches, you know, and somebody to really care about you guys and also really truly look at your health, make sure, you know, if we're pushing the envelope, are we doing it safely with not just trying to guess at it? Because you can't guess at your health long term. Yeah.
I was watching, you ever watch Leo and Longevity?
Little bit, yeah.
Yeah, he did a show yesterday, day before yesterday. They were talking about I don't say his name. This guy Shelby Starnes. You ever heard of him? Yeah, about how did you see that, Maddie? Where he was talking about all these girls that are coming forward that are like lost kidneys, and some of them have died, and all kinds of stuff. He's like pushing the envelope on these girls.
Yeah, and I've had women come to me from other coaches and stuff, and when I ask them like what were you on? Oh my God. And, you know, I mean, we're talking 400 to 600, certain steroids and, you know, thyroid hormone. And I'm talking about more thyroid hormone that I'm prescribing for patients who have thyroid disease. I was just surprised. And the dosing was close to, to male dosing. And some of the anabolics were like, there's no reason for a woman to be taking that at all. And then they come to me and they're just done. Their entire endocrine system at 32 years old is completely just shot, you know. It's awful to see.
Yeah. Now I'll say this. I don't know Shelby. I don't know anything about his females. All I know is what I heard on the show. So I just put that out there.
So something's going wrong. I mean, there's been a lot of deaths, hasn't there? A hell of a lot of deaths in the last few years.
Yeah. I didn't realize he was, and I don't know whether or not it was true or not, but he had like 3 girls on the show that came on and talked, and that were former, clients of his that were talking about the sicknesses that they had now and all the, whatever.
And that's the point. I mean, you get these, and nowadays, like when we did our first show, we had Ty on and talking about just kind of the old school stuff compared to now. I mean, I'm just saying there's multiple shows a year where you can turn professional. A lot of people are turning professional. everybody's got to be, there's big teams now, and then there's pressure to stay on those teams. So, if they don't place well, then they're off the team. And the pressure seems to be a little bit higher than ever, and especially now that you have social media and you have this stuff, you're trying to make your brand or you're influencing. And I mean, you're pushing yourself to a limit that's just unbelievable. And it just, like I said, ultimately, look what happens, like we talked about before. I don't think any of us got into this sport to be unhealthy or die. The whole point was to be in good shape and look good. But now the end result is we're pushing it to an extreme with drugs and chemicals. And now next thing we're dying at, Jesus, taking out kidneys and heart disease. I mean, this is, it's going askew here,
Yeah. I don't know if you followed some of the prior shows I did with Ian, but Ian brings that up a lot as to why he got out of professional bodybuilding, was because he was seeing all his friends die, and the supplements was just too much.
Yeah, like I said, but and what I'm seeing more and more now is because everybody again is looking for the fast result. And even when I coach people, talk to people about using anabolics and so on and so forth, and, it's not about the amount of drug that you're taking. Everybody seems to keep wanting to take more drugs to get a result. And what I say about it is like, hey, I want to bench 400 pounds. Instead of taking a little bit of drug and working the heck out of the drug to get there, they're like, I'll just take 5 times the amount so I can just get there.
They want to get there. They want to get there faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a new concept, though. I think in defense of people nowadays, people think that like back in, I sound like an old timer, but back in my day when I was competing, I knew one guy, for instance, that's what he did. He supplied steroids all over the world. And he knew what a lot of the top IFBB pros at the time in the 90s were taking. And his philosophy, and I'll never forget it, 'cause it blew my mind. He knew what Gary Strider was taking. He knew what Barry DeMay was taking. He knew, let's say, 4 different athletes. So he took all of it. He took everything. He took every single thing that all of these guys were taking, and he said, "Well, some of it's got to work." And they're not understanding that that's going to just shut you down. So I don't think it's a new concept where people are that they want a shortcut. I think that's human nature. I think people have always wanted a shortcut, and I don't think it's a new concept. It's just, there's got to be some. I think that the problem, personally, I think the problem is that too many people now do whatever the coach says, no matter what, and they have no input into it. They have no education on it. And I think you've got to know the basics. I mean, if you're going to take, for instance, years and years ago, I knew a guy, very famous bodybuilder, and he was getting coached by one of the first coaches. This is in the 90s. And he showed me a vial of something that he'd been told to take. And the coach had taken the label off it, so he didn't know what it was. And I said to him, I said, "Well, what is it?" He said, "Oh, I don't know. I'm just going to take it." I'm like, who would do that? Right? Who would take anything that you don't know what it is, and you haven't done any type of research as to what it actually does? So I think a lot of it is blindly following the advice of someone. And the bottom line is, you've got to look out for your own health. You've got to
100%.
You've got to be responsible for your own decisions. I think one of the worst things in modern day bodybuilding, and again, it's not a modern day thing, it's been around for a long time, is diuretics. They use diuretics, and diuretics are dangerous, man. I used diuretics for my first ever pro show, nearly didn't live to tell the tale, never touched them ever again. And I used a supposedly safe diuretic, aldactazide, which is a potassium sparing diuretic, but I didn't use a lot of it. It just, my body reacted badly to it. But when I hear people using Lasix and Diazide and all these other things when they're already depleted anyway, and then stopping drinking on top of that, it just blows my mind. It really does.
Yeah. I mean, just like you're saying, I can't agree with you more with what you're saying. It's like, understand what you're doing. Like you say, you take the advice of the coach. And again, I'm not knocking anybody, to each their own, but what's the qualification on a coach? Because I took this stuff, now I know what I'm doing? No, absolutely not. But then that's kind of like my drive in giving back to the sport where I started, because also you can't go to your local doctor and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Will you monitor me? No, I wrote an article one time. Literally, you're better off going to your doctor saying that you're addicted to methamphetamines or pain pills. They'll put their arms around you, hug you. Oh, we'll get you better. But if you go into your doctor's office now and say, I use anabolic steroids, they'll think you're the worst person ever, send you a scarlet letter and send you home. So then these people have no choice. And I'll tell you a scary story. I had a patient come to me who thought he was buying a specific substance, and it ended up being Armor All. They had to take off half the outside of his leg. So you know the white substance that I'm talking about, he thought it was that. He was so desperate he bought it, and he was shooting Armor All on his leg and lost the whole vastus lateralis.
Wow. Wow.
Mm.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of that before. That a long time ago I heard of that from a guy called Troy Zuccolotto. He told me a story about that. There was a bodybuilder called Nimrod King. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
And I think he turned up at one of the Grand Prix in England with a great big white patch on his shoulder because he had a hole in his shoulder from doing exactly that, as far as I know. I mean, it's mind blowing. But I think what the big thing is, it's driven. Until the doctors like yourself that can actually monitor hormone levels. Like I remember when I was 19 years old, I actually went to my doctor, my childhood doctor, and I said to him, I said, listen, I want to be a professional bodybuilder. I want to do this for a living. I want to be one of the best in the world, and I'm considering using anabolic steroids. I would like my blood work tested on a regular basis. His answer to me was, this conversation never happened. You will not take anabolic steroids, and it basically kicked me out of the practice. Would not see me ever again. I had to go and find another doctor. So, this is back in the late 80s, actually, and I had no choice. There was nobody like yourself to go and speak to about it. I had to do my own research. I mean, damn, back then we didn't have our blood work done because nobody would do it.
Yeah, the position I take on it, like I said, I don't condone the use. Be careful, all that, but also too, I know I'm dealing with adults. I'm not their father. If I tell them, well, get out of my practice, I'm not going to do this, or don't do it, you're grown up. You know you're going to do it. So my point is, okay, that conversation's over. So now let's make sure we're going to do it right then. Because regardless on my end, I'm going to have to take care of you when you screw it up anyways. So I'd rather you do it right, and we can move through life and do this well. Because if not, it's your husband or wife who's calling, he's having a heart attack, he's in renal failure. Now I got to take care of that, which is a pain in the ass anyways. I'd rather take care of you healthy and show you how to do the stuff correctly then, you know?
Yeah, I think there's use and abuse in the of anything.
Of course.
Use and abuse. And I think it's got to the point, and like I said, I think there was people back in my day that did the same, but it's like being almost put on a pedestal if you talk about crazy doses, and it's like almost like some kind of madman that people think it's an admirable trait. I've actually met bodybuilders that boast about how much they take, and that blows my mind. I don't know why you would boast about it. Boast about how hard you train or how dedicated.
Yeah,
but
all the hard work you put in, not the formula that you took. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's a strange sport. I mean, it attracts strange people, doesn't it? Look at all us. We're all strange people. I mean, it does attract strange people, but I just think people need to not trust people blindly. Do some research of your own. Find out what you. I mean, honestly, when I took advice off people when I was first coming into the sport, I would listen to people, but then I would do my own research and see how they're. Basically, I want a reason of why. I wouldn't just do something because a guy said. I want a reasoning why. All the steps of why this would work or why it wouldn't work. You know, I think that's what people need to do a little bit more of.
Absolutely.
So Doc, before we get rolling on your book and stuff here, if I don't ask you this, I've had like 5 people ask me. Ask the doc what he thinks about the COVID stuff, about the vaccination. What's your take? I know we talked about it, I think, on our last segment, but now that it's heating up again, you
just opened Pandora's box there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna stay non-biased. I'm gonna stay as a scientist. We'll talk in that regard. We'll keep all the other stuff out of it. You know, my point is, if somebody has a compromised immune system, elderly people, predisposition to disease processes, and like I said, lower immune system. Hey, you have to do what's right to try to protect yourself. Understand, COVID is a virus, okay? The human body can fight viruses as long as the immune system is strong. The big thing with COVID is it's causing what's called a cytokine or inflammatory storm. It's entering through the lungs and different receptors in the heart. That's why we're seeing so much different damage, okay? And a cytokine being an inflammatory marker, you got to keep the inflammation down. So that's where, like right now, we are slammed at my office. Last Tuesday, we received over 400 telephone calls relating to treatments for COVID. Oh. Again, I proudly stand out and say I'm one of the only physicians around that I know of. There are some other that are either doing ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, steroid therapy, different things in that regard, immunotherapy to help prevent it. And the patients that I have used this on, who either began with COVID, never got a really strong, a strong virility, being too sick, you see what I'm saying? Or prophylactically, again, anecdotally, knock on wood, I did this protocol last year before COVID even came out, or right when it was kind of starting to pick up. I can probably say I invested into my staff and myself. And over the past year and a half, we've done over 12,500 visits, and not one of my staff members has ever gotten COVID or tested positive for the antibodies. Wow. Again, with the vaccine, at the end of the day, it's a choice. To me personally, I don't have to take it, so I'm not taking it now as a vaccine as well. I would rather wait till there's been more testing done and we're down to maybe a third or fourth or fifth generation of it, because I don't want to take a vaccine right now and come to find out, oops, we messed up this ingredient and this is going to cause me this long term. I feel as though my immune system is strong enough and I know what to do in order to keep myself as healthy as possible. But again, but what I don't like, what I'm hearing is people, whether you're for it or against it, hey, that's your opinion. Don't knock somebody else for their opinion. Now, like I said, you're just splitting people left and right. And that's something that's just, I don't like that. You're making people choose, and then if I choose to be vaccinated, well then then you're wrong because you're not. I don't like that. Now you're pushing that envelope too far.
Now what about as far as like a bodybuilder that's competing? Say I'm 2 weeks out from a show. Is my immune system weaker?
Yes. Okay. Yes. 100%. Because we all competed. How well do you feel in 2 weeks out?
No,
you feel.
I know, but I'm just for people
no,
maybe
but
that
I'm
are
saying, but you know what I'm saying. Think about all the competitors and anybody out there listening. Think about 2 weeks out and think about how you feel. You feel like garbage. You feel like you're sick. And so again, working out itself is, physiologically now, please, is it tears your body down. Where you get the look from is your recovery. Okay. So when we do work out, we put ourselves in an immune compromised state initially. It's what we do afterwards that builds it up. Same difference, dieting, you've got calorie deficit, like we're talking about. If people are taking diuretics, your electrolytes are off, all your water balance is off. You're leaving yourself susceptible. So that would be a point in time that you definitely want to do things to keep that immune system high, because you're trying to do good and your body, you're leaving susceptible. You're leaving yourself open to end up getting something bad.
And so that'll lead me into my my next thing here. Let me see if I can find my share screen here. I know I very, 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 very rarely talk about politics, but this one's kind of related to it is related to bodybuilding. So Arnold's comment, and did you see, or you guys see this?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. You see it now on the screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. This is Redcon. Redcon's a huge supplement company,
yeah,
for those that
I
don't
saw
know.
That today.
And they're pulling the plug on the Arnold, and they're one of the major sponsors. And I'll just read a little clip here. Now Redcon One, a top supplement company, standing up to the know-it-all fake conversation and Mr. Universe, former Mr. Universe, and letting him know with the comment he made about, he said, screw your freedoms. Let's see here. Redcon One, the fastest growing sports nutrition brand in the world, announced today with a heavy heart that is discontinued all support for the Arnold Classic and the other Arnold-related events globally after Arnold Schwarzenegger's anti-American comments.
What happened to the time when people could have different viewpoints on politics and still get along? It used to be like that. You could have difference of opinion. You could have a discussion, and then you'd still be friends. Now it's just like boom.
Yeah, you're right. You're either this or you're that. There's no in between. And if you don't like what I like, then you're my enemy.
Yeah. I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about that. I watched the interview. I don't know. I don't like what he said. Obviously, what he said was wrong, but I don't think he meant it the way that a lot of people thought he did. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I can agree with what you're saying, but that's where, again, you gotta, it's almost like now, that's what I'm saying. Nowadays, you know, we're on a show tonight. We have social media, we have Twitter. You gotta, nobody checks what they do before they say it. I tell you what, we've talked about this before, you know, yes, and I've been in school for a very, 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 very long time. But I'll tell you, one of the best classes I ever took was when I was in business school. It was business writing. Because they taught you how you type, how you text, how you email is how you're going to be portrayed. Right. So before you hit send, before you post that out there, you need to make sure how it's going to come across. Because again, nowadays, everybody's a critic. Everybody has an opinion. And once it's out there for everybody. So now, again, look how much damage control is always being done now with athletes or celebrities, or anybody says something. Well, that's not what I meant. Well, that's how it came out, you know. Preference. You got to do something in that regard, you know. And if you're going to make these strong, bold statements, you know, make sure what you're trying to say is what you're trying to say.
Especially when you're Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. That's a legend. That's the icon of this sport. And now the backlash that's coming along, like you said, you remember that. As you can do a million things right, and people will say a couple things. You do one thing wrong, it's all over. An entire career, an entire, you know, your ethics, your moral, your personality is just done. It's just absolutely done by a stupid comment, a misplaced, you know, a misplaced interview, whatever. It's like, that's why I gotta tell people, look, you want to talk to me about science? I'll talk science, because that's black and white. I don't get in all that gray stuff. It gives me anxiety.
Yeah. Same here. And we, like I said, we very rarely talk about this stuff, but I thought it had to do with the Arnold coming up, so I'd mention it.
Yeah.
But let's see here. You got your let me click on it here. We got your book, Essential Guide to Wellness, and that just got released this week, right?
Yeah, it actually went live Monday evening. So
Yep. And so I'll let you kind of just take it from here, and you can kind of tell us a little bit about it.
So
see, we got you 2 sales today.
I see that.
A couple people posted, said they
you know, first of all, like I said, we've talked before, you know, from where I came from, and now, you know, I'm here talking with you guys. I have a book, and actually people are buying a book that I wrote is very, very humbling, you know. But to me, what it was, it's been actually almost 2.5 years of writing it. I had to use somebody to help me write it, because God, if I would write it, I don't think anybody would ever come to my office. I learned in doing this whole process that's, you know, I can say things. There's a difference between having an idea wrapped in my brain than writing it on paper. Yes. You know, so you got to have somebody who knows what they're doing. It's just that someone can read what I'm trying to say. So yeah, about 2.5 years in the making. What I wanted to do was to just, again, the stuff that I talk to my patients about, you know, again, like what it says, a simple approach to optimizing your health, a simple little guide, not too in depth, just enough to wet your whistle, maybe spark change, and invest in a little more time and go a little bit deeper. I've had some questions like, who's the book for? Books for everybody, whether it's weight loss, whether you want to build your immune system, why do you want to live a longer, healthier, you know, more quality type life? It touches on all of those different subjects. And like I said, I just want to, again, do something tangible to give back. That's kind of always been my whole passion in medicine. Me as an individual, I wasn't raised in an area where we had access to healthcare. We were treated well. And my whole passion when I went through all this was to have a facility to where people had a voice who didn't have a voice and had access to the healthcare system legitimately. You know, just like we've said, you go to doctors, they treat you rude, you're in and out, they don't even know who you are. And I was like, I just wanted to do something different. And the more that I, can do with my education, and now that I'm gaining this momentum, I just want to keep giving back. And that's kind of what this book is. It's just, again, it's a guide to wellness, simple stuff. Because again, you look at the state of affairs in America from a health perspective. I mean, we rank so low in the world in healthcare delivery, yet we're one of the richest countries in the world. You know what I'm saying? And it's sad. We're so much into practicing reactive medicine. We wait till something's wrong, and then we spend all this money and time trying to fix it, when we could work on preventative medicine and never have to go down that route. You follow me?
Yeah.
And again, that can't be the way. I've always been adamant. That just can't be the way. I don't think people want to wake up and be sick. You know what I'm saying? That you can't want to define your life and your day by how many doctor's appointments I have. Well, I got to stop and take my pills. If you're having a choice, you want to be in good shape or healthy. And you have to understand, minus some genetic predisposition or like that, a lot of the diseases that face this country today are all due to self-preservation. You follow me? It's like, all you got to do is drink some water, walk around the block, eat 3 squares, and you're pretty much going to do okay. We're a pretty adaptive organism. You have to understand what you have to do to become diabetic. You have to understand what you've done to your body to have cardiovascular disease, neurological disease, chronic meaning in a bad way, and what it truly biochemically takes to become fat. If I broke it down, I'd be like, oh my God, so that's like my patient. That's kind of what the book does. It just breaks down easy, simple ways. I tell people all the time, they're like, what can I do to stay healthy? Take a multivitamin, take a vitamin D, take a B complex, take an omega, walk around the block, and drink half your body weight in ounces of water, and you're doing it probably about 85% more than most Americans. So pretty simple stuff. And I wanted to convey that to actually something tangible people could read.
Yeah. Now, what about gut health? You hit that in there too?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. I know that's a big part, especially with us in our line of work too, in our industry. So
yeah, like I said, and what this book allows me to do down the road, because you've been around me, I don't never stop thinking. That's why my wife is always yelling at me. This allows me to write more in-depth books. I can take a topic and say, okay, here's an in-depth book on immunity. Here's an in-depth book on the GI system. Here's an in-depth book on men's health, women's. It allows me to branch out further down the road and go further and further into specific topics.
Cool. Matt, you got anything? You've been quiet.
Oh, I know. I'm just enamored. I definitely cannot wait to read this book. I've always been interested in nutrition and wellness. If I didn't get my psychology and sociology degree, I would have gone more health orientated, and psychology of health is probably my favorite. And that's also another reason why I'm a competitor. I'm obsessed with nutrition.
Good. I'm sorry, Ian, I cut you off.
No. I don't know if you know, Jason, but I had open heart surgery last December.
Oh, really?
I had 6 bypasses.
Oof.
Yeah. I nearly didn't survive, and I had no idea that there was anything wrong with me. I had no clue. Always exercised, always eating what I thought was a healthy diet. Looking back, I think I've kind of identified some of the things that probably caused it. I've changed my diet quite drastically. But yeah, it's that was the biggest wake-up call ever in my life. I was in an induced coma for 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
Nearly didn't pull through. So it definitely puts a different perspective on everything.
It does. And that's one of the reasons, and Jason knows, like, my subspecialty is cardiology. I take a big passion, very passionate about cardiology. And I trained out of Vanderbilt and really learned a new way of looking at cardiology, more from a vascular biochemistry and cell biology perspective. And that's the big thing, just like you said, the heart, I'm so adamant with, because you're not going to know there's something wrong till there's something wrong. And when there's something wrong, it's already too late.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I was crazy earlier this year. You talk about not knowing. I was out in Beverly Hills for some surgical training, came back, and I have my own personal gym and training studio up above my office. And I'm working at like 7:30 in the morning, and the girl runs downstairs, bangs on my office door. And I was like, I walk out there and I'm like, what's the matter, sweetie? She goes, somebody went down upstairs. So we train a lot of sick people. So I'm like, oh, typical, probably diabetic, didn't have enough. I said, so go in the office and get sugar. I go upstairs, I run upstairs up to the gym, and my trainer's up there, and he's ghost white. And he goes, I don't know what happened. The guy's sitting over there. And I rolled him over, and I was like, holy shit, he's dead. I mean, he's as blue. He's breathing from his belly. So we had to do CPR on him, did it for about 15 minutes. Finally, rescue showed up, figured out how bad of shape I was in, because I thought I was gonna have a cardiac arrest after doing CPR for 15 minutes. But anyways, long story short, this gentleman ended up being in a coma for over 4+ weeks. And what was crazy is, so these are the words he told my trainer before that happened. What a great workout yesterday. I feel incredible. I can't wait to get started. 2 minutes into the workout, that was it.
Wow.
It was the most amazing thing. So I didn't even know the guy. He wasn't a patient of mine. He was just a regular training client. And it was the coolest thing. I guess probably 2 months after the episode, I was finishing surgery for the day, and I was eating lunch, and one of my front desk staff said, somebody's here to see you. And I was like, well, bring him to the back. And so I went into my exam room, and holy shit, he's there. Because this guy was done. And I would talk to the hospital people every day, and like, he's probably not going to make it. They had to transfer him out of Daytona and all that. And after speaking to him, if all of us would have lined up our money and took 5 people and bet on who would have had a heart attack, all of us would be broke right now. Gentleman was little over 50 years old, 5'7", 150 pounds, no family history, no personal history. The first time he's ever been sick, and that was it. Scary.
Wow. That's more or less me. You just described me, but except for the 5'7" and 150. I kind of checked off all those boxes. It's mind blowing. I mean, I had no idea. I was having what I thought was gastric issues. I was having heartburn for about 2.5 weeks, and like every other day, I would throw up for about an hour.
Wow.
I have a burning sensation right here in the middle of my chest, and I went to a walk-in clinic. They referred me to a gastroenterologist. On December 7th, I went to my gastroenterologist. That morning, he looked at my ankles. Both my ankles had swollen up, which must have happened that morning. And I went straight to Sarasota Memorial, and I had emergency open heart surgery.
Yeah.
I mean, and I have no family history. I have all my blood works always came back with not high cholesterol.
Yeah.
Have any of those signs? Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know what do you think causes things like that if you don't have like high cholesterol and stuff.
So that's one of the things that I changed my paradigm of thought process on cardiology and learning under Dr. Houston at Vanderbilt. So remember, cholesterol actually we make in the body. It's actually a beautiful thing. It protects our brain, protects our cells, helps make our hormones. It helps conduct electricity throughout our nerves. But what we don't want cholesterol to be is plaster to help plug up the holes on our arteries. See, what happens and where it goes bad, again, is the fact it all has to end up doing with vascular inflammation. Okay, and I'll give you a quick little cardiac study for people. What happens is, so you guys have heard your classic lipid profile: cholesterol, the HDL, which is good, and the LDL, which is the bad guys. Well, remember, LDL cholesterol is fuel for all of your cells. Every single one of your cells in the body has a receptor for LDL cholesterol, right? So it's used as fuel. But what happens is when the system is inflamed, immunity is down, so the vascular system isn't good, that the LDL cholesterol becomes inflamed or oxidized, and oxidized, same thing as being rusted. Well, this is the caveat. There is no cell in your body that has a receptor for oxidized LDL cholesterol, except for one. It's called a macrophage, and those are your innate white blood cells or your natural killer cells. So when an oxidized LDL hits that macrophage, it stimulates an immune and an inflammatory response in the cardiovascular system. And when you do that, you change the cholesterol into what's called a foam cell. The foam cell is what causes the plaque. Then that is what puts in your tubes and pipes the cracks. Now you keep plaquing, you cause destruction and disruption in the endothelium. The blood keeps hitting it, pops off. There's your heart attack.
And what's the greatest cause of inflammation, would you say?
There's a lot of different things. So one of the biggest things here in America, stress. So remember this is a caveat. Remember, you have two systems in your body. You have your sympathetic nervous system and you have your parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic meaning fight or flight. Parasympathetic, I kind of tell people, about an hour after Thanksgiving dinner when you sit on the couch and don't want to move. That's what bodybuilders need to be in, is because that's when you're resting and recovering. The body is uberly smart on absolutely everything, yet it is almost completely naive when it comes to stress. And what I mean by that, it doesn't know the difference between the bears chasing you in the woods, you lost your cell phone, or somebody cut you off in traffic. Your body perceives stress as the bear is chasing you in the woods. So it's releasing cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine, which is adrenaline. Again, all great hormones when you have to run from the bear, but not after you exercise, not when you're sitting at home, not when you're driving in your car. Well, again, we can't do both systems. You can't have the light on and off at the same time. So increased stress, poor habits, sugar, too much. Again, sugar oxidizes, or AKA glycates, poor diets, the stuff that we eat, the environment that we're put into makes the body become inflamed. And then in turn, inflammation causes oxidation. Oxidation causes change in molecular boundaries. And there we go. And now it's just a caveat of falling downhill from there.
Interesting. Yeah, that sounds just like me. I mean, I basically, I got into real estate a long time ago, not in it now, but I had a lot of rental properties, and I wasn't training. I was living on coffee with sugar, and I'd do maybe 6 cups a day just to get my job done, and then I'd eat a meal at night. And it was the most stressful thing I ever did, and I did it for about probably 8 to 10 years. And that's kind of what I put all this down to. And my cardiologist said to me that, because I told her I retired from pro bodybuilding in my late 20s, and I didn't really live that lifestyle from that point on. But I did do some stupid. I mean, I was a pro wrestler for a few years after that, so I did some like physically taxing things. But she said that I started a cycle of inflammation in my 20s, and it just continued throughout my life.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I tell people, very rarely independently will the heart go bad unless you have some type of genetic predisposition anatomically. Most of the time, your heart disease is a 10 to 15 to 20 year manifestation of endothelial dysfunction. That's ultimately what it is. That's what causes the heart disease as a whole. It ends up being stress and inflammation. That's what causes the issue. And again, that's why I'm adamant with my bodybuilders. Like I said, I do cardiac testing on all my patients at the end of the year just to see where we stand. Because like I said, everything's going well, and all of a sudden I have 6 bypasses. And like you said, it was nothing that you did 3 days prior. Did you just say, I did real estate for 8 to 10 years?
That's what
8 to 10 years ago.
Yeah,
that's what you can pinpoint it. And like you said, it was coffee with sugar. And think about it. As kids, we used to eat that stuff, rock candy, right? Remember, you just put that's a fancy word for glycation. Well, that's what sugar does in your body. It glycates, so it turns into rock candy. Just imagine that running through your nerves, your arteries, and your organs. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Ian, what did you weigh before you had your surgeries for your problems?
When I went in for my heart surgery, I was about 245.
Okay.
245, 250.
Mm-hmm. So you weren't too heavy.
No, I wasn't. I've never, that's the crazy thing. I've never really, and I think that's almost a curse for me, because I could always get away with eating high calorie foods because I never got fat. You know, I still carried a reasonable amount of muscle, and I'd always been like a sugar fiend. I always had sugar. I loved like candy, like English candy. I'd go nuts. Obviously, I don't do it now. But I pretty much put my finger on what really caused it.
Yeah.
It's just because I never really gained fat. I didn't get overweight in any way, shape, or form. My cholesterol wasn't high. I didn't think I was at risk. I did not think I was at risk, and how naive am I? And now I mean, like, I still train, but I do like circuits. I don't do anything heavy. I cycle. I do some kind of cardio every day for 40, 50 minutes.
Yeah.
I do a lot of like CoQ10 and vitamin C. I take as many antioxidants as I can. I stay hydrated. I don't do any saturated fats now. You know, I don't do red meat. I do fish and chicken really. I do fish and egg whites really. Do you think I should still do egg yolks, Jason? I mean,
just so kind of like a split. Like, let's just say, for example, say we're doing a total of 4 eggs. So like 3 whites, 1 yolk, because the yolk still has some of your good fats in it, though.
Yeah.
I would a mixture, but definitely on the higher end white with, you know, so maybe 3, add 1 into it. Yeah.
That's kind of what I do. I do 1 whole egg and I do like maybe half a cup of egg whites with it. And I make it into like a vegetable omelet.
The one thing you said right off the bat, which put again, CoQ10, can't emphasize how important that supplement is to sustaining energy in the body. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. That's why when you hear people who take statin drugs talk about my legs hurt, my muscles hurt, what happens is the way the biochemical method by which statins work, it pretty much wipes out the CoQ10. So it doesn't allow your body to make energy. And what's sad to note is that all the drug companies who make the statins have had the patent to put CoQ10 in the medication. They just chose not to.
Yeah. Doc, you mentioned sugar. These bodybuilders that do a large amount of insulin, are they at a higher risk?
Yeah, that's just bad. You know, I mean, I actually had a young man, wasn't a patient of mine, but he ended up dying using insulin. That is the scariest thing to me, because just like Ian said, man, you're taking the, you know, again, I got to be careful when like saying who and what, but like, you know, coaches who literally can't slap their ass with both hands. I have no other way. And then they're going to tell you to take a medication. You see what I'm saying? That they have literally no clue about. And again, if you're not covering yourself, you don't know what you're doing. Again, go ahead and burn out your pancreas and then become diabetic. You understand our body, it is literally on the edge with insulin and sugar ratio all the time. I saw it as a baby healthcare professional. I'll give you a quick story. I was working on the night shift and I had a gentleman who was diabetic. His blood sugar was like 200, 210. So I gave him the little bit of insulin that we were supposed to, and you told him to eat a snack to cover him. So it's like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So it's like 4 in the morning. I'm doing rounds, doing different things. My assistant runs down the hall at 4 in the morning. And she's like, you got to come here, please. So I run down the hall. This guy, so he's an African-American gentleman. He's white. He's on the floor. He's white. His eyes are rolled back in his head. And we check his sugar. It's 23. Look in the bag. He never ate his snack. So we had to do a code on him. But what you do when somebody's sugar's low, you give them what's called D50, which is basically dextrose, 50% dextrose solution. And again, I'm still a baby, like haven't seen anything yet. I don't know. Again, I can't slap my ass with both hands at this point in my life. As we're pushing this D50 into this man, he's literally coming back to life. I'm like, holy shit. By the time we pushed it and we check his sugar again, it's back up to like 140. And he's like, what happened? All I remember, I was watching TV. Then I passed out. I mean, and from that point on, I'm like, okay, this doesn't something to be messing with. So yes, your question is, it's dangerous. You don't, I mean, yes, ultimately insulin is probably one of the most powerful anabolic hormones because insulin's a carrier. At the end of the day, insulin's a carrier. It's going to bring all the good stuff into the cell. But again, the cost benefit analysis on that, I can't agree with it. If you got it, that's pushing it too far.
Yeah. I've never tried it. What about female competitors? Are you seeing them using it too?
Myself or that?
Yeah. Have you heard of it?
I haven't seen many, not myself. No.
Yeah, I don't know if any of your patients come in that used to take it or
whatever. No, like I said, most of my females, what we'll get, they end up being on high doses of, more of an androgen or a DHT based steroid, and then your T3, your Cytomel, your thyroid, your true active thyroid hormone. Those are the ones that I see, like high doses of androgen-based, the true androgen-based, DHT-based steroids, and like I said, high doses of thyroid. And again, you've sacrificed a look and you blew the organ out. Thyroid's very fickle. It's actually, one of the major autoimmune issues in the body and in America. And like I said, you're using that to lose weight. Again, think about it though. That's what's scary. When you begin to use medications to manipulate organs, you're really pushing that line, man. You see what I'm saying? It's like you're using thyroid hormone to override the master regulator of cellular metabolism in the body to get a look that you want. Scary. Second, you're using insulin, which is in control of, keeping your body's metabolic processes in check, and you're overriding that organ in order to achieve a look. You blow those two organs out, I mean, you're just battling the rest of your life. So
scary stuff. People don't
very scary.
Fellow female competitors who have taken things like Winstrol, Anavar, clenbuterol, and just to name a few, and then later they'll have really bad issues with hormones. I do know a female who has infertility issues now, and it might be linked to taking some of those and it just affecting our hormones so greatly. You just don't know what's going to happen. How can you know when your body's different? You don't know how much you really took. You don't know if it could have been real or not, or you didn't look all right. It's just very dangerous. It's Russian roulette with those things, especially for a female. It's just the hormone system's so delicate.
And that's it. I agree with you 100%. Well, when I do hormone replacement therapy, the difference in me replacing hormones in a gentleman compared to a female, it's night and day. I mean, I have multiple different hormones with you guys. I have a slim margin to get it right. Guys, I can goop it up a little, or that was a little high or a little low. You guys have like so small of a margin, and if it's messed up, we shoot way off to the left or the right. And just what you said, and like Jason knows the way. Like, I treat every one of my patients different, because 100%. You're not like my 10 o'clock. My 10 o'clock's not my 10:30. So for me, and again, we can use steroids, we can get medication. 10 milligrams for you might be 20 milligrams for that person, might be 4 for this. I don't know. But that's like what Ian was saying with these coaches. They don't have a clue. I'm going to do for you what I do for all my girls. You see what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, what's sad is with some of these teams, they're using their top girls and everybody else just falls to the wayside, but they're going to give them all that. They don't respond. So like you said, now these girls are out, 28, 32 years old. You got basically endocrine shutdown, infertility. They look terrible. They can't get back in shape. Their immune system, the GI system, their endocrine system is just shot. And what did you do? You got a couple trophies, got a couple medals, and
that's
kind of doesn't seem like it's worth it.
No.
I don't think it's worth it.
It's crazy though, when you're young. I remember. I mean, I'm older and wiser now, and I look back on everything, and things are kind of. And after what I've just been through, it makes you really look at life differently. But when I was in my early 20s, people would always say, "Oh, you got to be careful. You could end up dying. You could end up doing yourself permanent harm." And you've got such a cavalier attitude at that age that you think nothing can stop you. You're never going to die, or you don't see past 50 or 60 anyway. Life's over by then. until you get to 50 or 60, then you realize you really want to keep living if you can. But you know,
I
I say to people, you know, oh, it'll be a big coffin. You know, just you get a lot of that. You get a lot of that, and I hear it now, and I hear myself, and I think, man, just that you've got to look at the big picture. And like you say, it's a plastic trophy, or even if it's a metal trophy, it's a piece of it's an object. You know, it's not worth risking your health for it.
No, it's not. And like you said, we all had it. I mean, I signed my first pro contract when I was 20 years old. I wouldn't listen to anybody because I knew everything, you know. And it's like now I'm 46 and I'm like, you know, I'm like, holy shit, man, I should have, you know, but I have now, obviously, and I had coaches and I had agents and I had doctors around me. And that's a caveat too. On the side note, being 46 years old, I've pretty much not any longer. I do not use anabolic steroids, but I did back in the day. But from what I did, I had to be on hormone replacement therapy. So in my life, 28 of my years, I've either been on anabolic steroids or hormone replacement. But you know what? It was done correctly, monitored, and at 46, health comes back perfect every time. I do my blood work every 8 weeks, and I do a massive, regimen of medications and immunotherapies, different things like that. But that shows you, again, doing things correctly and monitored, you can live a long, safe, and healthy life. But again, like you said, don't start off in fifth gear. You got to make some deposits in the bank. So like you said, if you do make it to 50, like, okay, I made it. Check everything off and make sure you're still here, because nowadays, you damn sure better expect 85, 90 at quality. It's not like the old days where, grandma was 55, you know what I'm saying? And her, red lipstick and, slip-on shoes and knitted sweater, like I said, you better expect to be quality. And if you give it all the hell in between 20 to 30, well, Jesus, man, you still got 60 years left and you got nothing left in the tank, Yeah.
I think what saved me, honestly, was that I did a lot of my stuff when I was very young. I turned pro at 20, I retired at 28. So before I was 30, I was done with the whole thing. I haven't used anything since then. I mean, I've never been on TRT. I should probably get my hormone levels checked and see where they're at, but I don't have any issues that I know of. But it's probably, my cardiologist is probably one of the best person to ask if I could get my testosterone levels checked. But I think when I went in for my open heart surgery, my is it the ejection rate of your heart?
Yeah, your ejection factor. Yeah,
ejection factor was 15%.
Oh, that's failure. Heart was a complete failure.
Yeah, when I left after my surgery, it was at 35%. And then when I went back 3 months after my surgery, it was at 55%.
Okay. And you're right at close to normal. Somewhere usually 55, 65% is normal range. So that's, back to beautiful. But at 15%, that's failure. That's, if they don't fix it and you don't die, that's transplant. Anything under a 30% is transplant.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
Well, let me ask you this, Doc, and I know the answer to this, and what you have me, the testing you stuff you do with me, but is blood work enough? So my question is like Joe the plumber and Joe the bodybuilder, should they both get the same test done?
I run the same tests. Yeah.
Okay.
Now that being said, when I went from a bodybuilding perspective, there might be other things I look at a little bit further, like from an inflammatory perspective, markers in the heart. There will be things I look a little bit further with the liver, with the adrenal glands, because I know the stress that you put in. But the labs that I run, they're pretty extensive.
Yes.
For a general lab panel, I run 55 labs on every single person that comes in that door, whether they're a professional athlete or whether they're bagging groceries at Publix. Because what it does for me, it gives me an overall generalized view of what I need to know, and then if I need to go further. But like I said, I will look at other things from vascular, kidneys, that you don't normally draw on a regular person, just to see if there's any further damage and as what's gone on. So yes, initially the same, and then we look further. Like I said, the things I'm looking at with bodybuilders, again, is the heart. really at the end of the day, it's not the anabolics so much that cause the heart issue. We've talked about this a million times. The heart's a muscle. Okay. Well, you're using more gear, you're heavier, your blood gets thicker. The heart has to beat the thicker blood. It gets bigger, but it doesn't get stronger. So it becomes stretched out. It becomes energy deprived. And most of your bodybuilders straight with just steroid use, not all this other stuff that they're taking, die of congestive heart failure. Well, that's a preventable process by, again, getting your blood work done, doing therapeutic blood draws, making sure things are done right. You don't have to end up in congestive heart failure. You also look at the stress on the kidneys. The kidneys take up 25% of the cardiac output. It's intertwined. So if the heart's not good, let's look at kidney function tests. Let's go deeper into kidney function tests. And I've told you, how many times I've told you just in general, let's do these shows, but I ask you to come to me so I can detoxify your liver. Again, and taking milk thistle or some crap that's on the thing that's no. People, there's 3 to 4 different phases in the liver. You have to detox every single phase to efficiently have the liver working. And again, that's what these guys do. I will not let my bodybuilders compete again until everything's back to normal. Okay, we're going in the off season. Okay, your liver enzymes are high, your blood pressure is high, your cholesterol is high. Okay, before we start again, we're getting all this cleaned out, because if all we do is we add this back into a junk system, then what's going to happen? Again, it's easy. Junk in, junk out. That's at the end of the day. Simple. You know, if you let your cholesterol go to 330 over the last, let's say, 5 months of training and shows, well, if you don't bring that back down to normal, let me get you straight. Now you're just adding on a 330 cholesterol. So next time it's 550, and you keep digging ourselves a bigger rat hole. You follow me?
Now I know, and we've talked about this before. When I'm doing a show, I prep out about 12 to 16 weeks, and I think we were doing my blood draw about every 6 weeks. We were checking it. You recommend that for somebody?
Well, yeah, because this way, and again, like I was thinking, it's funny, like in medicine and then like in sports, everybody's always got some ego. Everything's got I think you have to could admit with me, like I have none. I just want to work with guys and help them out. But it's surprising that I offer my services to guys and I offer my services to their coaches and just say, hey, let me look at this. I'm not working against you. Let's work together if we truly care. I have like 2 coaches who have an active participation with me and making their competitors come to me and go in, that's what's going on. Because if at least every 6 weeks, let's see what's going on. What are we taking? What has it done? Hey, we're good here. Good. Let me tell the coach, hey, everything's good here. Hey, right now, I'm telling you, these 2 combinations are causing severe liver issues, which in turn, if you're going to look for a specific look, in about 4 weeks, this is going to cause his belly to start to swell. He's going to start to hold on to water. The look that you want is not going to happen. And just go back to what Ian said. Now we're going over here to diuretics and completely manipulating the renal system, which they have no idea what they're doing. And so then there's problems there. You follow me? So I just think, 6 to 8 weeks in between, at least a blood draw, excuse me, right before we prep, maybe halfway through. And then the last 4 weeks, I know it's all hell. It's all hell. I don't even want to look at the labs. It's just, I'm not even looking at them. Just finish it out and come to me when we're done, Okay.
I need to call you after this and get maybe come over and see you about my health from this point on. I'll tell you what I should do.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Definitely. Yeah. So, well, Doc, I think that's about all I got. Maddie, you got any more questions?
Oh, thank you. This is actually pretty enlightening. I want to look more into what I can do for my prep just to focus on wellness and longevity. I think that's one of the things I need to focus on going forth with my improvement season and my prep season, thinking about what I can do to make sure recovery is good and inflammation's down.
Yeah. So like I said, you guys can, Jason has my number. You guys can more than welcome to reach out to me. And then again, if you guys ever want to, reach out, like I said, if you're close to me, you're more than welcome to come to the practice. Like I said, I'd love to have you guys there. If not, it's okay, because I can do patient care from afar. I have patients in 20 states, Canada, Europe, and the Caribbean. So as afar is not an issue. But again, if you can get to my office, then we can do some more testing. But yeah, like I said, just please reach out. I'd love to help, help in any way that I can.
Thank you.
I think all bodybuilders and anybody who competes should take Jason up on that. I mean, or somebody like Jason. I think athletes in general should monitor what they're doing. I really
absolutely.
And it's proven with what's going on now with all these people. There's been 2 more deaths in Spain recently. And it's scary. Like I say, we all started bodybuilding because we thought it was healthy. You know, that's what goes into it, the strong, healthy one, right? And it turns out into what happened to me and what's been happening to a lot of these athletes that have been competing. It's just, it's scary, man. And people need to take more care of themselves. Nobody's immortal. Nobody's immortal.
No.
Exactly.
No, especially if you've been competing for a while, like me. I've been competing for a while, and I'm in my 40s now and stuff. I want to compete in my 50s. You know, so I enjoy this. I still have a passion for competing, and I want to make sure I stay healthy.
Perfect. Guys, thank you so very much. It's a pleasure meeting you guys. Thank you again, Jason. I appreciate the opportunity even let me come on and talk about this book. Like I said, if you guys want to go pick it up, I'm humbled to do it. Like I said, I can't appreciate it enough, like I said, but I think it's an easy read. Simple. It's not, you know, I know Jason hears me talk sometime like, oh, you got to slow that down. It's way too much. It's too far in depth. So somebody help me kind of break this down a little bit easier.
I'm actually starting to learn some of your lingo. So I'm actually,
but again, an easy read. Like I said, it answers a lot of questions. So thank you guys so very much for your time.
Yeah. Amazon. Are you on Amazon?
Yeah. It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon now. And then I'll start to have my copy shipped to the office the first week of September. But yeah, it's on Amazon now.
Is there a lot of diet information in the book, Jason?
Just very general. Right now, just an overall, just for health. Like I said, I wanted to keep it simple now so that anybody could look at it. But no, there will be more coming. That's what I'm saying. She's already giving me the nasty look. I can see it. So, but there is going to be more coming down the road. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Pleasure speaking to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Doc. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later. Thank you so much.
July. Next month, we'll get another Ask the Doc going.
Yeah. Just let me know. I'm there.
Awesome. Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.